Hey folks, welcome to the Wrench Turners Podcast, the show that's about improving the life, well-being, and productivity of mechanics everywhere. I'm your host, Mr. Joshua Taylor, founder and CEO of WrenchTurners.online. Today, we get to talk with a very awesome individual, Ansley Williams, Chief Revenue Officer at CDCI, Cascade Development Consulting. In today's Wrenchers episode, we talk about the pull of automotive, 3-year-old explanations, and enjoying being the road warrior. Let's get into it.
All right, Ansley, thank you for coming on the show.
Hi.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
Thanks for
it.
taking the time. So, Ansley, tell us, what got you into automotive?
I always hate this question, not because it's a bad question. It's a great question, but I don't know how to answer that. So I am not your classic automotive industry person. And I say this because for the last year and a half that I've been in the industry, everybody has a fantastic origin story. They started from the cradle, right? Everybody sort of grew up in the industry, most people that I've talked to. And this has just been their life for their entire career. And I don't have that typical origin story. I have the weirdest, strangest career background that somehow landed me here. I've worked in national television. I've worked in retail. I've worked in private aviation. I've been in digital marketing. I've been in insurance, large group insurance, which is sort of the last place I was at that ended me here because I was consulting with large employer groups on how to have the best benefit packages to be the best of the best in terms of employer, right? So I was really heavily focused on employee retention and how to be a best-in-class employer from an HR and benefit perspective. And I met the owner of Cascade Development Consulting, CDCI, and really he was trying to use me for what could I do for my groups? Because in the course of what we do, we get asked, what should we maybe be doing to keep employees, and it touches on the topic of benefits. And so originally Ben was I think you'd be a really great resource. But because my background is so weird, and I mean so weird, he's I think we could probably use you for more than just that. I have a strong marketing background. I've been a corporate trainer. I obviously love marketing. I am a customer, right? I'm the ideal person driving up on the service drive who knows jack squat about cars. I don't know. I don't.
And that's how how automotive always seems to pull. There's things that we say on a frequent basis where, once you get into the automotive industry, people will spend 10, 15, 20 years, and then for whatever reason, maybe they have a bad experience or life changes or whatever, and they get out for a period of time. And then somehow, some way, automotive pulls them back in.
Of course.
But this works the other way around too. When you've never been in automotive, somehow you have this exceptionally diverse net that you cast because of your experiences in life and growing up and your corporate world or your retail world. And somehow those sets of skills pool into something that is ideal to work in automotive. And again, it pulls you in.
It's bizarre to me. I mean, because if you had I laugh because my dad, it's the only career that I've had in the course of my life that my dad asks every day, how was work? What's going on? He dives in. His best friend owned a dealership. So I grew up hanging out at my dad's best friend's dealership in Alaska. And my uncle is a mechanic, hardcore, through and through. I don't think I ever see that man not covered in grease. He's got junkyard dogs. He restores Porsches and Ferraris. And so I used to hang out at my uncle's shop. I spent time in the automotive. But again, when I go back to I didn't know anything. I never took my car to a dealership to ever get fixed prior to this job.
Well, I barely took it to,
but I barely took it to my uncle's shop, if we're being really honest. And he was really mad when I stopped driving a Volkswagen, because he's you're not going to drive that Prius into my shop right now, right? Or you're not driving that Camry into my shop to get fixed, are you? Not that he would ever not take care of me. So it's funny because yeah, this like weird background intermix of all the things. Like Ben begged for probably 6 straight months to like, I really think you need to come do this. Like I don't know how to tell you more. Like this is the place for you. Like come join us. Let's like make some magic happen. And I get to use literally every skill set that I have, and then some I didn't know I had. Now living in the automotive space, and I can't imagine doing anything else now. But that's what happens, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think one of the big things about automotive is that when you pull those things together, like you say, and you're using every skill set you have, the fundamental need in automotive space and the top 5%ers, they're always trying to find someone to help, right? They're always trying to either solve a problem, fix a problem, or improve somebody's day or improve somebody's work life in some way, shape, or form. And that's whether it's a technician, a vendor, a service leader, a sales leader, they're all trying to solve problems and help people. And it's those that succeed at the top level that truly put service over self first, that succeed the most and then love it. And it becomes not just passionate, but purposeful.
Yep.
Right? That's
huge.
That's huge. So that's awesome. So if you've only been with Ben doing this in specifically automotive for a year and a half, you're in. So what's the last year and a half been like? You're saying that you've used every skill set you have. What's the last year and a half been like?
Like drinking out of a fire hose every single day. Every single day.
You're not wrong.
Oh no, and it'll be this way for a while. I think we'll come up on 2 years in October, and I have had to learn new vocabulary, right? Words I didn't even know what a catalytic converter was until recently, obviously. But I'm having to learn how to talk to. I've worked at a sales level. It's selling at a Fortune 100 level. I've dealt with executives, right? Executives in automotive are different.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just are. And so I've had to learn like a different vocabulary for them. I've had to learn a different vocabulary, a different way of speaking and dealing with managers, a completely different way of dealing with all these different groups, right? You have service, you have sales, you have technicians, you have parts people, you have service advisors. Like it's a different language and a different way of interacting. And a lot of our approach is very collaborative. So when we're hired, like we really become a part of the team. And so I've had to learn how to not look like a fool, but I'm having to like massage the situations in a way that I never had to in sales. A lot of my background the last several years has been in sales, so it's been to like get us in the door. It has not been to implement. It has not been to stay long term. Like our contracts are a couple years usually with each client, and I'm in the trenches. So I've had to learn like. Every day is something new. Every day I'm like, how did I not know this before? But
and you're doing the kind of stuff in the trenches where you probably have stores that are hiring you from a bottom 5% standpoint where they just aren't executing. They don't have the deliverables. They don't have the people in place to execute the kind of things they're hiring you for. And you're having to build them up from a completely foundational level. And you also probably have companies and more specifically dealerships that come to you at a top 5% level where they're already executing at a really high level and they're looking for that 1% gain because they're already, they're like Paragon Honda where they're doing, 500 to 1,000 cars a month. They're trying to look for that 1% because that 1% for them is a 10x ROI on your cost, right? So yeah. And it's hard.
It's hard, and every day is different. Every dealership is different. Every service advisor is different. Every technician is different. Everybody is different, and so I'm like constantly thinking on my feet. And I'm working with advisors that are like newish. I've never written service, right? And I have to like be really transparent. Like I've never written service, but I have absolutely been your customer on the drive. In fact, I will bring my car, and we're going to go through the experience, and we're going to see what that looks like. And you're going to tell me what the technician recommends and how that entire process looks like. I'm going to help coach them through that. But it's so crazy. Like I'll tell you one story only because it's really, I don't even know if it's a story. Like we were doing a menu build Like I got really involved in the menu build, and I'm having conversations with the shop foreman and all the technicians, like having to go around with like parts, right? Because this is the maintenance menu. And I'm like, okay, when do you use this? And I need you to explain it to me like I am a 3-year-old child who knows nothing about vehicles, because I need to understand where it fits. Because we have this one thing that's been on the menu that no one can give me a straight answer on when we do it, why we do it, how it works. Like, is it the same thing as this? Because nobody's touched this one line and we are at the point of being done. Like, tell me what it is. It took like 10 technicians to like not only walk me through it, but go, oh, I guess you're right. Maybe that is the same thing as that. And I don't know why we're calling it that. Why is it on the menu like that? But like, I didn't have.
It means it's complicated, right? If it took that many people, it means it's super complicated. Or more specifically, what's that phrase? If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. And
yeah, it's a pour-in. It's a pour-in, Josh. It's a pour-in.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
a pour-in that like, I was like, guys, how is it different than this? And they're like, oh, it's not. I'm like, great. But you know, it's again, you talk about this, right? The communication between a technician and advisors and technicians to leadership. And they're all like, I don't know why we call it 5 different things. It's literally this. It's the same thing as that. Can we just make it easy, which is part of what we do? But it's crazy because nobody was sitting down talking to them, having this conversation. Like it was weird to be the go-between.
That's one of the most single biggest problems that every dealership service department has, is that it's like purple telephone or whatever the name of that game is.
Yes.
Right? There's this person talks to this person talks to that person talks to this person, and there's no closed loop. It's not A to B. Most of these conversations that need to be had that aren't being had, or if they are being had, they're really big circles that don't complete. They need to be one-to-one or one to the group, so that the entire group understands exactly what's going on simply, so that they can discuss it amongst each other with the same language, the same communication style, with the same more specific nouns. And we're talking about nouns here, realistically speaking. You're talking about an omitted noun, and my wife is horrible for this. My where's the there it is a common phrase in our house, because we can't remember the name of the thing that we're looking for. Or more specifically, we'll come up with like one of my favorite phrases on the shop floor is the multi-angle swing press, because I forgot the name of hammer, right? So what we're talking about here is the same thing, right? You've got a name. You got the multi-angle spring press, the heavy persuasion device. They're both a hammer. Hammer is the simple word. It is the noun. It is the thing. It is the simplest thing. But we can come up with all kinds of complicated phrases in automotive for something stupidly simple that overcomplicate the hell out of everything. And I think maybe it's a matter of control, but I don't know. There's lots of ways that you can slice it, but the point is it needs to be simple. Period.
Well, otherwise you can't understand each other. And this goes down to like a fundamental communication issue that happens everywhere, but it tends to be really heightened in automotive, because when I'm talking to you and you're not understanding me, and you're talking to me and I'm not understanding you, we're not having a conversation. Like nothing is going to happen and nothing is going to get solved. And so, yeah, it's interesting, not only not knowing all the nuances of the language of automotive, and I'm having to learn it all. Now I'm like, okay, talk to me like I'm 3, and let's like back it up a few steps and let's figure out if we can speak the same language at this point. But it's certainly fun. I can't complain.
There's never a dull moment. There really is never.
Never.
So we've got your first year there. So, and you've kind of inferred that you had a very wide net coming into automotive. So what's the story that got you here? So it sounds like, Ben at your firm really wanted you in. Tell us about the steps, some of the simple steps that got you to the point where you had somebody that was hungry to have you work in automotive. What were those steps?
So I am an idea person. So even if, he and I were talking about, employees and what does that look like and how can I help his companies. And, Ben is a talker. He's not the outward facing, like he doesn't want to be the face of anything. Don't put me on the book cover. Like, I don't know that I want to do podcast interviews. Like, I just want to go get the work done. He is let me go get the work done. I don't want to talk about the work. I don't need to make a deal about the work. I just want to go have impact, go be me, go do what I do best behind the scenes and move on. And we get to talking about my very strange, random background, and he's like, I really need marketing help. I'm at a point now where I'd really like to grow. I mean, he's been around, he's been doing this for 15 years. We have teams of people doing it. Nobody knows who we are. That's fine. He was fine with that. He's like, but I think we're sort of at that point that I want to expand. Do you have ideas? This is always how Ben starts it. He's like, you got any ideas? Let me see what you got in your head. And I love coming up with stuff. I obviously love marketing. I love all the other pieces. And so I got to talking about, what I think he could probably do. And I got excited about the people, and I get excited about purpose and impact. And I was feeling very stuck in corporate world. And so when you tell me that I'm going to get back to traveling, I'm not just going to sell a dealership, but I actually get to be a part of the process of implementing it, maintaining the relationship on site. You mean I get to do training? I haven't been able to do training in 6 years, and I crave that experience. And so he's like, these are all these things that my current team does, but then I need this marketing layer, and I need this person that can help me expand the product line in a way that we could actually offer it outside of our program. Like, our program is super immersive. Like, we're on site for months and weeks at a time, like in the thick of it, like in the weeds, getting dirty with everybody. And he's like, we can't do that for everybody. Like, that doesn't fit for everybody, but what we have has potential. And he's like, I don't even know how to begin packaging it, productizing it, pricing it, like all these things. And so you get me in a room and you give me a glass of wine, and before you know it, I'm like, I have all these ideas spewing out like crazy. And he's like, okay, Ansley, when are you going to be tired of corporate office life? Are you ready for something more? And I think the day I called him, I was like, well, I just gave notice. And he was like, oh, we're doing it now. I'm like, yep. Like, I'll like, it's happening now. Like, put me on a plane. Where are we going? And I, full in. I started to do, before I went all in, I started to do some of the marketing stuff. I looked at the numbers, I looked at the program, and I was like, this is legit. Because some of what we'll tell you we can do for a dealership, people think we're making it up. And I didn't know enough, but I was like, you mean to tell me that I can sell something that's going to actually make people money? I used to sell things that saved them money or cost them a lot of money, and the ROI was this soft, intangible. You get to keep your employees. Yeah, it doesn't jive. And so when you started to put all the pieces together, like all the things I could do, like I'd stay up all night going, oh, I have this idea. Oh, we could do this. And I'm given like carte blanche, free range, like go build it, because I can't. He's like, I can't. That's not me. And so when you get to do all those things, it's a great
feeling to see the tangible stuff. When you go from an intangible standpoint to a tangible standpoint, it's really like it's enlightening, it's rewarding, it's all of the positive impact sensations that you can feel almost all at once. When I started doing 90-day follow-ups on my coaching, and I started to see, like, it wasn't just for the first year or so, I had my profile header on LinkedIn. It's like, I help technicians be happy and produce more by 12%, because I was using someone else's tangible results based on happiness, and when I started to really dig into it, I started the survey. I started to get data feedback on the survey. I started to do coaching. I started to get feedback on coaching for a short period of time. Okay, short period of time doesn't great. When we start looking at the 90-day and the 120-day and the 180-day stuff, and you start seeing consistent positive results ongoing with the same individual that you're doing coaching with, and you think, oh, okay, coaching takes forever, and da-da-da-da-da. It's like, most of the results on this stuff were surprising me. Most of the technicians that I coach usually get results within 4 sessions, like super short.
Exciting. Yes.
It's so cool. And when you see it written, and when you see the subsequent feedback on the marketing, you put out marketing, I put out marketing. When you see the marketing go out and you see people contact, it's like, I started journaling. It changed my life. Journaling. When technicians tell me that, when I get, one of my boys, Richard Mueller had, when he's trying to get his team to implement journaling, because phrases that his technicians on his shop floor make him think, I want to trust my team. I want to help my team. but I want to see what they're doing that I'm not seeing. Even though I'm on the floor, even though I'm seeing everybody and I'm talking to everybody, there's stuff that I'm not seeing and stuff that I'm not feeling. I want to help them succeed, so they need to journal so that I can see the small stuff, the steps between the steps.
Yep.
And when you start seeing the steps between the steps and you go, oh my goodness, why didn't I not see that? Or I get, another group of technicians from another store that I did a survey on, and they get the same kind of results. Like, all I did was journal. All my team did was journal. It cost me $1 per technician for a bloody sheets of paper and got them to journal. It cost me nothing else. And I found something that was so stupid simple to change, and we get increases in productivity, you get morale boosts, and you stop getting those, typically, not always, but typically you get those grumpy people stop being grumpy because you start to care. So
Yep.
That for me gets me all riled up, as you can see. Sorry. So
I get it.
That leads me to the next question. Is, so you've had this great experience coming into automotive. You're using all of your skill sets. You found somebody that basically reminds me of a phrase, even though he's evil. It's the release the hounds.
Yes.
From Burns. So it's just, it's you are the hound. You're out, you're finding business, you're growing business, you're implementing business, you're seeing things on the front line. Now that you've been doing that, and now that you're seeing that from the first-hand point of view in the dealership setting in service, what is something that you would suggest to a technician to help them be happy based on what you've seen over the last year and a half?
So I would say this even before I'd ever been in this, and this is because I've been a coach and a mentor in various other industries as well, and I think it's the same with everybody. But I think technicians have it tough. Let's be honest; they are like the lifeblood of a dealership or a shop, and they are the most underrepresented and sometimes underappreciated group of people within a shop and a dealership. And some of that is their own doing, and a lot of that is leadership, right? And just the general culture of automotive.
Yeah,
So it requires
on that one, yeah.
Absolutely, right? And all we ever hear is the grumbling, because that's the loudest they're ever going to get, right? Is when technicians are unhappy. And that's when they're going to be either loud or the entire culture of a shop starts to deteriorate. And you're not quite sure, like, where did it start? Because it sort of breeds negativity, right? And so it is a two-way street, but I feel for them, because it's the only time people tend to care is when they're afraid the shop's going to implode, which is the wrong time to start caring. Regardless of what you do, regardless of who you are, a job's going to be tough. We all have like the ups and downs, and when the job gets really tough, the thing that you have to understand about yourself is your why. And I don't mean the why you get out of bed. I get out of bed to put a roof over my head, or to put my kids through college, or because I love my job. Those are surface level. That's not a real why. And like, to get to your real why usually requires somebody else to probably ask you the questions. Unless you're really good at like not letting yourself off the hook, you have to keep asking yourself why. Like, Josh, why do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do, Josh?
For me personally, it's to help my community. Period. For those technicians that you're at, because I didn't have the help all through my career that I needed.
Why?
Because after my first shop foreman, I no longer had a leader that could show me the direction I needed to go based on my current aspirations for myself and my family.
Why did that matter to you?
No direction, no purpose.
Why does not having purpose bother you?
I feel lost without direction.
It's a terrible feeling, right?
100%.
And so your light, like your why, isn't surface level. And I actually believe like your purpose is as deeply rooted in wanting to help other people find their purpose and to feel happy and confident in what they are doing because they have their own goals and aspirations. And I've had this conversation with many different types of people, blue collar, executives, the moms of the world, right? And the dads of the world who, like my why is very deeply rooted in like not being seen as a productive person in my family. Like if we go all the way back, nobody took what I did seriously, ever. Nobody listened. Like I was not seen as a person. And so my why is very like very tied directly to wanting to be seen in the world as a person and somebody of value. So when you tap into your why, like your real why, and it can be for your kids, it can be because you didn't have those luxuries growing up as a child, and you really want your kid to have the best of everything. Obviously my daughter drives me too, but when you can tap into your real why and like really understand it, the days that suck, the days that make like you feel like everyone is taking a bite out of you and there is no like light at the end of the tunnel, and like, why am I even here in this building? Like, why do I work for this person? It gets easier when you can really understand why you do what you do. And it's not the paycheck, it's not the money, it's not the shiny tools, it's not the incredible toolbox you have behind you. Like, it is truly like, why do you do this job? Why? Why do you?
And it changes all the time, right? Like yesterday, I went to a memorial for my grandfather yesterday. So he passed, my grandpa Taylor passed 18 months ago, give or take. And yesterday, the Rotary, which he was a member of and a volunteer of and a president of at one stage, he dedicated 40 years of service to Rotary. And then they gave him a memorial. They plaqued a new sign for him. Yes, well, obviously before that, but they unveiled the sign for him yesterday.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's just one, because the other side of the family, my grandpa Sheffer, a year, 2 years after he passed, they memorialized him. There's a park about 500 feet away from my house, with a big old rock, and it's, you know, George Sheffer Memorial Park, that they planted trees in his name. And I have my two grandfathers. I have such a legacy-sized shoe to fill to try and get there, because their entire lives were dedicated to their community. They both had business in some way. My grandfather closed down the dealership the month before I was born, and was a chief of police, and then was on council. My grandpa Taylor ran a motel business for 37 years, a member of the community. You know, for 40, he was a member of Rotary. Like, these are legacy shoes. One of the things that I think that I'm finding doing coaching and myself, leaving a legacy for your children, your children's children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, to remember you by, that these were, at least from my gender side of the story, our male role models. My male role models left legacy. They left legacy that is permanent. It's not, even, you know, 4 or 5 generations from now, there's going to be, you can walk down the street and see his name carved into a stone to what he provided in his short lifetime to this community. And
it's beautiful.
For me, realizing that that's why he was successful, because he, you know, service above self. Both of them were Rotarians. My grandpa Sheffer was a Shriner as well. And to realize that when you start to put purpose and passion and service above self becomes your focus, a lot of other things start to come into play. You start to win on levels you never knew you could win on. You start to realize that it helps your family. You start to realize that it focuses yourself. You start to get rid of, like, in the last year, I've started to get rid of all the stuff that I don't do. Like, there's just so much that I don't do. I'm slowly purging. Well, not slowly purging. I'm trying to quickly purge, but purging all the stuff that you don't need. Purging the people you just don't need. If it doesn't serve your business, your family, or yourself, it's gotta go. It's gotta go, because if you focus on those 3 things, and not necessarily in that order, but business, family, and self, the people who serve you are the people that would happily do for you without question, and that you would happily do in response without question. Anybody else, they're there for the paycheck, or they're there for the return. And I said recently, I think I even said in Coach's Corner, if you're a giver, you need to know your limits, because takers have none. And that's where the service above self comes into play. If you're serving first, you're giving, but you still need to know your limits. That was a bit of a rant. I'm sorry for that, but
no, I love it.
my grandfather gets me going even though they're both gone. Actually, they're all gone now, so it's hard. I realize I probably should take up that mantle in some way, shape, or form and be that role model for my son. So
It's your turn.
it's my turn. So
Mm-hmm.
that said, you have been very instrumental in some of the stuff that you've been posting on, especially on LinkedIn. Your ability to pull detail, and I've seen how you pull it, and it's great. But the fact that it pulls transparency out of leaders, was that one of your ideas?
It's funny. It's not even necessarily my idea. How I position it is mine. Ben and the premise of what we do is very, very deeply rooted in transparency. He is like the master of communication and wanting to make sure that like if we lay it all out on the table, we can all come to a decision with all the information. And so we treat our clients that way with massive transparency. When we're engaged with a client, a lot of what we do and we talk about is it has to be transparency between every group. Like if you're going to come talk to us, we may keep you anonymous, right? We may not tell them, hey, it was, Joe that said this. It is, hey, this is what's happening in the shop. These are the conversations that are happening. This is what we are hearing, right? And we're having the same transparent conversation. Like, well, this is what we know is happening from leadership, the conversations we're having, what we're having with service managers. And so everything we talk about is needing to have transparency across the entire organization when we're involved, because everybody needs to know what's going on. Because we got to like shake out the cobwebs, like what's broken. And unless we're all talking and figuring out like, it's never going to get fixed. And so Ben has always been a huge proponent and driver of transparency. And it can be really tough to work with somebody like that sometimes, because you're like, like what? But when I told him that, as we start to like talk about what we do, we have to be pretty transparent. Like I needed to, there's no mystery, right? Because
there's no room for insecurity. There's no room for, this is true. These 4 numbers are true, but I'm just not going to say the other 6 numbers that I should say. And they're going to go, I know there's 10 digits there. You need to tell me all 10.
Exactly. Well, and consultants in fixed ops sort of have a bad rap. And it's tough because they're like, you're just going to come in and tell us all that's wrong and then sort of walk away. And your numbers are inflated. Oh, there's ways to massage the numbers. And I was like, I don't know enough to massage any numbers. Like, this is how it is. And I'll tell you the good, the bad, the indifferent. A lot of it's really good. And that is because of the foundation that's built. But, it really is. I need it to be transparent because credibility and trust comes from being able to see as much as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. We had to be. So I took his idea of transparency in what we do and made sure that it was as much as possible while protecting our clients, right? In terms of like our marketing and what I talk about. But I was I'm not.
So what you're telling me is that Ben is like Tony Montana. The only thing that he's got in this world is balls and his word, and he doesn't break them for nobody.
Pretty much.
That is the only way I think it's the only way in automotive that we can function at a truly high level, because if we have nothing else, right? The majority of the population doesn't understand what we do. We talked about in SDL this morning, we talked about trying to flop between, Joe likes to say profit first and Paul Meyer likes to say customer experience first, and the rest of us are going, they're not mutually exclusive. They're together. Right. They're one thing. So at the end of the day, we got to provide, one has to go primarily to ownership and one has to primarily go to customers, and the other one kind of needs to go to the technicians and to the salespeople and the parts people. But at the end of the day, we need to be transparent to everyone. Like it does, customer experience aside, profit aside, if we are not transparent, if we do not make promises and keep said promises to not only our customers, but to our employees, and be transparent about it, we are going to lose.
It's all communication. Like, as crazy as that sounds, it boils down at a base level to communication. Mm-hmm. Can you clearly communicate and hold to that? So yeah, I'm fortunate that I work for somebody who is as smart as he is, and he's totally like a savant. Like, he gets on a call with people and I was like, I learned a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't know. And I work side by side with this person every day for the last almost 2 years. But it goes down to like if he says he's going to do it, we're going to do it. We're going to figure it out. Collaborating along the way, but it's been interesting for sure.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Ansley. Thank you very much for taking the time today. I appreciate you giving us all of your time, your energy in this moment, and feedback and transparency and what you do and your journey through. So I appreciate that and that you sharing with all that.
Well, thank you for having me.
Awesome.
That's fun.
It was fun, and I hope we can do it again.
Yes, please. I'm always down. Maybe one of these days I can get Ben in front of a camera.
We'll work on that. We'll work on it.
Oh no! That's the end of today's episode, wretches. Whatever will we do? Oh, wait. That's right. There's another one coming next week. I really hope you folks enjoy and subscribe. Thank you, Ansley. Thank you very much for giving us your time, your energy, and your effort for this episode. We really appreciate it. And as usual, a quote to end the episode. You have to have the confidence in your ability and then be tough enough to follow through. Rosalind Carter. Remember, folks, negative pushes, positive pulls, and always clean your toys before you put them away.